Welcome back. I need to take off the rear bumper, see what goes on behind it. This actually is my first time taking off this rear bumper, so I'm hoping there's no more surprises underneath. Then I may try to take off the hatch right now. I still have a lot to do on the sides, as you guys know about with the door. I still got to finish up that fender. I think I showed you the body damage. Oh my, I keep smacking this tripod. Anyway. Have a nice little dent in here that they just patched right over, and a big bump in here. You could probably see it better from this side. There's that big wave in there, so that has to get fixed in there. I have another little dent right up here. And there was something else in the middle. I think it was like right here. Right here, I gotta hit this thing in a little bit because that's sticking out. But without further ado, let's get this bumper off because I don't want to find out that there is a surprise underneath that I'm not going to want to see. Let's get into it.
Alright, so no surprises were found taking off the bumper. There's a couple of little areas on the right side of the quarter that you could tell there was previous damage, but nothing crazy, nothing that's structural that I think that it would have needed to be replaced at least, or that would signify the car being a rollover, you know, gosh forbid. But so there was none of that, so that was good. That was an exciting thing to find out. The inside bracket was a little bit bent, so at some point someone must have either tried taking off the bumper and did not succeed properly, and it just did not go as planned to them, and they either bent the bracket, or I don't know, maybe someone tried changing the bumper, because this is a factory bumper but might not be factory to the car. That is just one of those unknowns when it comes to doing car parts, because you know, that's just how it works. With the bumper being off, I started sanding everything down with 220. Certain parts like this, like the bumper, I didn't take down at the bare plastic. I just did not see it being necessary. However, I did reprime everything, so any little rock chips or whatever little scratches or scrapes were in there from just the previous life of the part, it would just cover that, and then I would obviously hit that with the wet sand down once it was reprimed with a couple of coats of high build. I did 2 coats of high build for the back bumper, and I did 3 coats of high build for the front bumper just to make sure that the fiberglass was fully sealed and covered, but that's obviously for when you see the front bumper. But now certain parts attached up top to this front bumper, there is a license plate light that the little bracket that was attached to it was broken, so at some point someone did have this bumper off and they just broke it accidentally, and now that was up to me to fix, so that wasn't too big of a deal. I just put everything back together and then used a special epoxy to attach it. With no control, you can't breathe when you're drowning underwater. There's so much water. On to the big stuff now. So taking off the doors. Toyota, they did some things right and they did some things wrong. It makes it a lot easier when you have a pin on the top. So if you ever look on the inside of a door hinge, you might see a little pin, and when that pin is there, it is a very simple door to remove, meaning when you go to take the door off, you just have to undo the bottom bolts, and then the door lifts straight up from those pins and then the hinge is attached to the car, which is very simple. Toyota made it 4 bolts, and the 4 bolts have to be lined from the inside, which makes it just very annoying. It's a lot easier to do when you have 2 people. When you have the pin design, you could just do that by yourself, lift the door open, then attach everything back onto the car, pretty much 1, 2, 3. But I had a friend of mine come help me out just to take the brunt of the weight that was at the edge of it. And then it was just taking out the door seals and some of the minor stuff that was attached to it after that. So onto the other side, you're going to see me doing the same thing. I just snake out the window regulator wires, the lock unlock wires, and some of the other basic switches like that, and the mirrors and stuff. Now this paint stripper I was hoping it was going to be a blessing. There's a special chemical that's in the paint stripper that is supposed to do the brunt of the work. Unfortunately, one of these poor guys that used it in an unventilated bathroom with the doors and the windows closed, and had perished, I'll say, due to his actions of not being in a properly ventilated area. So there's a chemical that's strong enough that's what really gets under the paint and makes it lift, and they had to take it out because they wanted to avoid ever having a crisis like that on their hands. So the paint stripper did not work at all. In a couple of those clips that you were able to see, it didn't even lift. It did not do anything. It just made it look like it rusted. It was just a tint of the color. So I had to sand all that by hand, which I was really hoping not to, but ended up having to do it. But it came out good. So regardless, it was a little bit more time, but still completed, done, and finished. Now what you're seeing me do is I was just taping up the inside of the jam so that once I start sanding, nothing gets on that beautiful interior, to avoid having a very big mess of any of that. So that's what's happening here. This part that you are about to see took me a half an hour for no reason at all. This is such a simple part. You just undo the 2 Torx bolts, that's the door lock, and then you take it out. Very, very simple, 1, 2, 3. Whoever last tried to take this off, the nutserts that are in there, which is a welded nut on the inside of the panel, they broke the weld. So that whole bracket fell now onto the inside of the car, inside this little crevice that I then had to try and snake a small magnet to try and snake out. Ended up doing it, but it's just one of those quick little jobs that's supposed to be a nice, fast, easy part, and it just turns into a nightmare. As per usual though, because this is a car, and realistically, especially when buying a car that was used from another country that you have no idea the previous history, you always got to just expect some really, really interesting problems to come up. But once that was said and done, I just got my DA with some 60 grit and just started going to town at it, stripping down all the paint. Slow down. So I'm really sorry. Some of the clips that you're going to see might look like this. It's because I didn't want overspray to get on the camera. So I had to use this little piece of plastic that I found that I was really trying to find as clear as possible so you're still able to see me priming certain parts.
I'm going to start off by saying, I thought I pressed record the entire time I was sanding down both of those doors. That took at least 3.5 hours. And then what do? I go and start priming the parts, thinking I pressed record again. Guess what I didn't press? Record. I'm a little bit butthurt about that, not gonna lie, because the whole point of me recording all this is to show the length and the process of the work. But there's still plenty more that has to get sanded. So let me show you the finished prime product. So this is the passenger side door. This is the driver's side door. And this gorgeous, beautiful bumper. And this is factory. I am absolutely shot right now. While I was in here, I also did do another coat on. There's a little nick that I didn't see on the handle in here, but I did. I mean, you obviously can't tell now because that's the point of the body work. I fixed that, took care of it. This is now a glorious room of just a bunch of Mark IV parts. So I still have to do the flip side of the doors. I'll handle that, I believe, tomorrow, which I also do have my glass guy coming. So that is gonna be exciting. I could finally take out the hatch glass and start working on both of the quarters and the hatch. And then that is honestly all that is left. Okay, I'll see you in the next one.